We train the natural movement of thought through 7 simple steps. These steps work like a color staircase. Seven simple steps, 7 colors. You can see that in a good example is that usually shows up when you can tell because one clear sign is that's what I'm saying, so yeah, this really proves the point. You can see that in the way they talk, in her reaction, in the final result. Do you really think they've improved? Yeah, you can see that in the way they communicate now. How do you know she's more confident? You can see that in her reaction and body language. A good example is the last meeting, how they handled it, what happened yesterday. Can you give me an example? Sure, a good example is the way they solved the issue last week. What do you mean by better teamwork? A good example is how they supported each other during the launch. That usually shows up when people get tired, when the pressure gets high, when nobody communicates clearly. When does this kind of stress appear? That usually shows up when people try to do too much at once. When do teams start falling apart? That usually shows up when nobody says what the real problem is. You can tell because they stopped arguing. She sounds calmer now. The results are better. How do you know the team is doing better? You can tell because people aren't panicking anymore. How do you know that she means it? You can tell because her tone is completely different now. One clearer sign is better communication, how quickly they react, the drop in mistake. What makes you think things are improving? One clear sign is that people are asking better questions. How do you know the training worked? One clear sign is the way they handle problems now. That's why I'm saying we need to slow down. I'm saying this matters. I'm saying the problem is deeper. Why do you think we need to change it? Because it keeps failing. That's why we need a different approach. Why are you pushing this point? Because the signs are obvious. That's why I'm saying this matters. So yeah, that really proves the point. That really supports the idea. That really shows what I mean. Do you think that example supports your idea? Definitely, so yeah, that really proves the point. Was that enough evidence for you? For sure, so yeah, that really proves the point. You can see that in the way people react when things get hard. A good example is what happened during the last project. That usually shows up when communication starts breaking down. You can tell because people become less clear and more stressed. One clear sign is the number of mistakes going up. That's why I'm saying the issue starts earlier than people think. So yeah, that really proves the point. You can see that in the way people react under pressure. A good example is the last project. That usually shows up when communication starts breaking down. You can tell because people become slower. One clear sign is the number of mistakes. That's why the issue starts earlier. So yeah, that really proves the point. Do you really think they're stressed? Yeah, you can see that in the way they talk. How do you know that she feels better now? You can see that in her reaction. Can you give me an example? Sure, a good example is the last meeting. What do you mean by bad planning? A good example is what happened yesterday. When does this problem start? That usually shows up when people get tired. When the teams begin to struggle. That usually shows up when nobody communicates clearly. How do you know they trust each other now? You can tell because they listen more. How do you know she's calmer? You can tell because her tone is softer now. What shows the change most clearly? One clear sign is better communication. How do you know the training worked? One clear sign is the way they react now. Why do you think we need to slow down? We keep missing details. That's why I'm saying we need to slow down. Why are you focusing on this so much? The signs are already there. That's why I'm saying this matters. Does that example support your idea? Definitely. So yeah, that really proves the point. Was that enough evidence for you? For sure. So yeah, that really proves the point.